hopefully we can demystify some of what a CVC is and how it works and how things have been going. So let's start with your current views on the state of CVCs. Mm-hmm. So it's been a very interesting few years, record growth, I think, over the last couple of years, but also a big decline. I think there was a report, I'm just going to look at it here. CB Insights reported that CVC activity has slowed through 2022, falling 42%. So yeah, what's your views on the status quo?
So, I mean, when you look at CVC's corporate venture capitalist funds, the market has actually grown over the years for sure, but it is a drop in the water when you look at venture investing. So looking at the numbers, as you said, 400, 500 billion have been invested in ventures in 2022. And as you highlighted, there has been a massive drops. When we look at the numbers around VCs and CVCs, still today, the majority, 30-40% of investment comes from venture capitalists. And 8% come from corporate venture capitalists. And so, as I said, there's a drop of the water. But as you also know, when you start looking at venturing, fintech, and InsurTech, venturing and fintech, 8% are CVC funded, and 10% actually are insurers funding or corporate venture capitalists funded. So there's a little bit more in insurance because maybe part of it is we're more collaborative, we are less competitive, maybe. We actually realize that working and getting access to the right technology is very important for the HQ, the corporate office. And also, when you look at insurance, it's very reliant on technology, but also working with other members of the value chain, so broker, insurers, reinsurers, and so on and so forth. So they need often to work with younger ventures to achieve the objective they have set for themselves.
So I think you touched on it a little bit. Like, what is that thing about CVCs that makes it so applicable both to InsurTech and FinTech as a model that is different from venture capitalists? What is that facet, that one facet that you would say makes it a really good thing for an insurance company or a bank to go down the line?
Yeah, so VC, as you know, are usually being funded by LPs, so limited partners. They could be angel investors, and I do invest as an LP into a fund, an InsurTech fund. The money will come from different parties, institutional investors, and still corporate also invest in VCs. CVCs usually are owned by one company. So think about Schneider Electric, think about MassMutual, think about some of the big names. They would have set up for themselves a venture fund. And the goal of the venture fund is twofold. For sure, like Nectario said, we talk about strategic returns. So we are looking a bit longer term. We are aligning the goal and objective of the CVC with the HQ, the corporate office. So we need to understand the goal, the objective, the imperatives, and start building our investment strategy and investment thesis based on those objectives. But then there is also the financial goals, which are if CVC is not returning value to its HQ, well, they are not going to survive long. Now we analyzed 850 CVCs last year, 35 of them were insurance related, and within that you have actually a small portion of those venturists, corporate venturists, which are making money. And making money out of a CVC requires to look often when a CVC gets set up. They look usually at Series A and beyond. The first fund tend to be much bigger ticket, and probably some are suffering from that today. Looking at the current market circumstances, high interest rate, high inflation, which means the cost of capital is very high, and so we cannot get the return we are seeking around the valuation we're looking at. And so therefore, some of those CVCs are not looking as if they are doing that well, but they may recover later. But then, if they are strategic, they can wait longer. They can keep that investment for longer time than a VC would, because VCs are mostly financially rewarded and measured by their LPs.
Yeah, and I guess it's kind of interesting reflecting on insurance. which is a very complicated value chain, right? There's all sorts of different stakeholders, data, everything like that. So that longevity, I think, is very important in making insurance actually work, or insurance innovation actually work.
Absolutely.
And InsurTech is actually a very exciting space at the moment. I mean, what is it about CVCs that you're excited to see in the future add more value to the InsurTech ecosystem?
Yeah, I was reading an article recently from the global, corporate venturing platform. They're actually working alongside CVCs. And what they were highlighting with an article from Jacqueline LaSalle-Krause from the founder of Munich Re Ventures is actually people think CVC is that small and maybe not doing that well as VCs, but at the end of the day, the asset class, which is venturing, dropped 25% last year, and for CVC only 2%. And still today, when you look at it in terms of deals, the deals within CVCs have increased to 19% today. Last year, 101 new CVCs were set up. And so what I find exciting is the CVCs who actually understand why they are there and they have the right investment thesis, the right team, culture. It's great to have a CVC because you have all this young talent who actually want to join the company as well. The charter, right, the investment committee, and the method sitting behind the CVCs not only allow the CVCs to make money from investment, but there are two additional tenets of CVCs: is partnership, collaboration, and it's acquisition. So anything which is transactional or transferability, I call them, investing, acquiring, partnering, is really key for that CVC, and that's why CVCs also have venture build sometimes as incubators, but also accelerators, which is where often I do work with some of those corporates to help them do that better, this adoption of startups, so that they can convert them inside their organization and hopefully save costs to make money from them.
I guess it's a really fine balance, right, between being close enough to the organization that you get all of the knowledge and the distribution channels in the market, but also further away enough that the team and the people and the CVC has the space to be able to make its own investments. It must be some kind of art form, actually.
Yeah, there is. Actually, when you look at the path, I think the best option for a CVC is to be outside the corporate environment, because they need to move super fast. They need to be able to make decisions super fast. Still, there's an investment committee, right, regulation, governance, and a charter, which allows them to make choices based on agreed rules with the corporate office. They also need to have a strong team. Usually, CVC teams are not big. I've seen teams of 3, I've seen team of 5, because at the end of the day, they actually can leverage the resources from the corporate office, the legal team, they also, the legal, finance, all these functional support areas can come from the corporate company. Other things they need to make sure is, as they're actually recruiting younger people or partners, they can actually build a different culture. What I've seen around the CVC I interact with, which are strategic and financial, is they are putting a lot of weight around building a culture which is super innovative, super speedy, making choices quickly, but also being able to help the ventures they're investing in be successful. And today, a lot of CVCs are not spending money on new deals. They are spending and putting cash into their existing portfolio companies to enable them to last longer whilst the market is comme ci, comme ça. Yeah. And also leveraging their relationship with their clients and other investors to help this portfolio company. So when you look at CVCs, what is interesting is this ecosystem thinking. You invest, and then you have the lending, the BD, which is also coming from that organization to help the portfolio startups be successful. And often when VC said, I need to get out of this company after 7 years, a CVC can keep 10 years, right, until they get the value out of the organization.
And on that same vein, is there anything the wider fintech community or financial services community can actually learn from InsurTech and insurance? Because, look, insurance often gets criticized as being like a laggard, it's very slow, but actually the interconnected nature of making insurance innovation work, I think, is interesting. There's lessons, I think, that the wider industry can learn, right?
Yeah, when I jumped into the fintech world or InsurTech world 8 years ago, Nectarios was reminding me, 8 years ago, I've moved from corporates to being in insurance fintech. What is fascinating is what I saw within the fintech world. It's very competitive and very, I guess, for me, transactional. Insurance is very relationship-based. And so you cannot do anything if you don't build relationship in the industry.
Yeah.
So collaboration and partnership are, I guess, the two primary tenets of how insurance works. And trust, authenticity, integrity as well is a very important part of it. So what can we learn? I think collaboration is going to be important. Being actually a level of humility. The insurance company I work with, they recognize they are not great. You know, they are slow. I mean, corporates are slow, like David and Goliath, and think about, you know, big tanker versus speedboat. It is the same in insurance, and probably even worse in insurance because they are risk averse, right? It's insurance, we are evaluating risk. However, when they make decisions, they stick to it. Some of the companies I work with, I've worked with them for 7 years, sometimes even longer. And so I would say there is this relationship, there's this trust, there is this collaboration angle. And also it's about education, it's a knowledge industry. So we need the technology. Everybody is talking about AI and generative AI and ChatGPT now. So how can we actually start moving the needle around AI and start using those type of technology, metaverse and Web3? The industry is asking also this question. They are going to take some time to actually make the choices. Yeah. However, they're asking themselves the question, and they are looking for the technology and the startups able to help them solve things they can't solve themselves. So I would say maybe a little bit less transactional, maybe more like collaborative, but taking time to make decisions. I know recently we have seen some stuff happening in the banking sector, so maybe slow choices might
maybe
be helpful.
A little bit more risk averse might be. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
I think that brings it to an end.
Thank you.
Thank you.